Lesson 137, Formal Speech in German. In the last lesson, we talked about using third-person verbs and nouns and pronouns. In other words, speaking in the third person as a way to speak in a formal way to someone like a judge in the courtroom or a king or a queen. Instead of saying, you are, we would say, your majesty is, or your honor is. And so we would be talking to someone directly, but using third-person speech to do it. And that's kind of the technique that we use in German to do formal speech. Right, Lisa?
Right. So we have this pronoun, which is Sie. It's a capitalized S. And we use it really for one person or multiple persons if we want to address them formally.
So, Lisa, in the last lesson, we talked about using third-person singular titles. But in German, really what we're doing is using third-person plural titles, right? Like the word Sie is plural, and so we would use a plural verb with it. Is that correct?
Yes, so with Sie, the capitalized Sie, or the formal Sie, we can use it for one person, addressing one person, or many people. But you are right, it always takes the verb in the plural. So it doesn't matter if you're just talking to one person that you're not that familiar with, or that is your superior or older than you, and you want to address them formally in a more polite way. You will still use the verb in plural. It's the same as with multiple people that you would address formally.
So that's a bit different from the explanation I gave in the previous lesson about how we do it in English. In English, we might use a singular verb, but in German, we're always going to be in this lower right-hand corner of the chart, so to speak, this third-person plural zone. So that's a big difference and a very important thing to keep in mind. And so for our listeners, you just have to get used to this idea. Usually when you're talking to someone directly, you'll use second-person pronouns, second-person verbs. But in formal speech in German, you have to get accustomed to using these third-person plural pronouns and verbs.
Yes. And these kind of are accompanied with what we learned before, Herr und Frau, with the last name. So Herr Johnson, Frau Meyer, these go hand in hand. Whereas in English, or in America at least, I feel often people use the first name basis, pretty much from the start or much earlier as we would do in Germany. In Germany, you would want the older person or the one that's higher in the hierarchy to offer you a do before you actually use it.
So this is an interesting point you bring up, because it talks about a place where the social customs of a place mix with the language of the place. It's sort of a place where social custom and language cross paths, right?
Right.
Lisa, let's quickly go through a few of these examples here. This first example here, Sie sind.
Mm-hmm.
If you see Sie sind just by itself, what could it be?
It could be numerous things, because here Sie is in the first position, so we know the first word of a sentence is always capitalized. So we will not know if it is just Sie as in they, or it could be Sie as in you, the plural you, because we do have a plural verb. Or it could also be the formal plural, y'all.
So because Sie sind can be used to speak to one person or multiple people, just seeing it in written form like this, you really can't tell how many people are being addressed.
Right.
Okay, so context is really going to be your friend here, right? It's going to help you understand the meaning behind these words. Here in this example, we don't have any context. We're deliberately taking it out of context just as a study to examine it, right?
Right.
And we have another example, sind Sie, or maybe you can pronounce it better than I can.
That was
Sind
pretty
Sie?
good. Sind Sie? Yeah.
So again, it's a third person plural verb and a third person plural title of respect. So it could be talking to one person or more than one person, right?
Right.
And now, because it's a question, the word sie is coming second. It's not at the beginning of the sentence anymore. So now it's revealed the fact that it has a capital S.
Yes. Which helps narrow it down a little.
Yeah, that narrows it down a little bit, right?
Right.
So it could be are you, or it could be are y'all.
Yes.
Those are the two possible meanings. And then finally, Lisa, we have some examples that do not use the formal title of respect, sie. Sie ist meine Schwester. There, sie just means she, right?
Right. You see, you have a singular verb, ist. So this one is a pretty clear example. And you also have meine Schwester. You see it's a singular noun.
So if you see sie and ist together, that cannot possibly be formal speech, right?
Right.
It just simply cannot be formal speech because formal speech would require that third person plural verb, correct?
Correct. So it's the same or similar in the next example where we have wo ist die Zeitung? Sie ist auf dem Tisch. Because here the sie refers back to die Zeitung, which is a feminine noun in German. So we would call it a she. That is why it's sie here. But the verb is singular again, so that gives us a good clue.
So if you see the letter combination SIE in German, it could mean you in formal speech. It could mean y'all in formal speech. It could mean she, or it could mean it.
Yes.
So it just depends on the situation. It depends on if it's capitalized. It depends on the verb that goes with it. And hopefully after this lesson, after absorbing all this material, you'll be able to understand how sie can be used in German and how to tell apart its different uses.